So yesterday, the lights went off here in Kharkov around 2:30 in the afternoon, and that had an impact on the heating situation as well. The lights went out, as far as I know, throughout the entire city, and the heating kind of like went off maybe 6 hours after that. Of course, I guess it was just circulating and whatnot. I have no idea, but that's basically what seems to have happened. The lights came back on at noon today, so all in all, it was about 22 hours without the lights. Now, I'll tell you, it's incredibly dispiriting to be in a city without electricity. I mean, this is a subjective video, okay? I'm not going to be telling you anything new or anything particularly insightful for that matter. I just wanted to give you my subjective impressions of what it's like to be in a major city with no electricity. First of all, right now here, it's cold. It's dipping below freezing. And, no electricity means no heating, okay? And you are constantly shocked by how much you need electricity. I mean, in my own case, for instance, I need it for the stove. I need it, of course, for the computer and whatnot. Internet, of course, is gone. And all of a sudden you realize that everything in your life depends on electricity, even getting to your own home. Because if you live in an apartment building, as I do, where you need an elevator, okay? I mean, it is not fun to be climbing God knows how many stairs, and carrying stuff or whatever, it is a bit of a nightmare. It's dispiriting. That's the only word I can think of, okay? You feel low. And when the lights went out, this morning I looked out, the lights went out, like I said, at 2:30. It gets dark around here, like around 3:34 in the afternoon. And so, like around 6 p.m., there was like, what am I supposed to do? So I just went to sleep because there was nothing to do. And I realized how much of my entertainment, how much of everything depends on electricity. I mean, I have a few books, but still, and of course you have to read them with a flashlight, which I have. I have two, as a matter of fact, and lots of batteries, so I'm good on that end. But it reminded me of when I was living in Chile in the very early 80s. In 83 and 84, I recall the communists, because there were communist insurgents, they would blow up electrical transmission towers, and periodically there'd be no electricity. And it was, I mean, at the time I was a kid, 1983, 1984, I was 15, 16 years old. And so I didn't, I didn't feel it as such a big deal, as it were. Also, at the time, of course, I was living with my family, whereas here, I'm on my own. And so here now, I feel it. I feel that, dispiriting, because it really is. And, I woke up in the morning and there's no traffic whatsoever, just a few cars here and there. And I did notice that there were some people who packed up their stuff, clearly. And I saw them, going down the staircase. They were carrying their belongings and they had decided that, they were going to leave the city. I mean, they were carrying enough stuff after losing the lights that it was clear what their intentions were. Now, in my case, I'll admit, I was thinking, should I leave? Should I not leave? And what's worst of all is because there's no electricity, you have really no idea what's happened outside of your very, very small circle, because you have no way of getting information. I mean, like, the lights went out in the whole city. And so there's nothing. There's no TV. There's no internet. For all I knew, the whole world could have gone up in smoke in a nuclear fireball, in a nuclear war. I wouldn't have known, And so it was eerie. It was truly eerie. And of course, back in 83 and 84, my life did not revolve around so many people who are so far away. I mean, when I was growing up in the early 80s, there was no internet, there was no cell phones, there was none of that. But here, with no electricity, no cell phones, no internet, no idea of what's going on in the world beyond you. and it is deeply creepy. It really freaks you out. And the electrical devices that you might have, laptop, computer, iPad, iPhone, whatever, you start like husbanding the energy and worrying and turning down the brightness of the screen so as not to suck up any more juice from the batteries. Because you want to keep them at least functioning. I mean, you don't need them right away, but you're figuring maybe at some point I will. You also start thinking to yourself, if I see anybody with a generator, and I saw a few people, or passed by, I mean, I could hear the engine coming from some building, and I realized that they had a generator of some sort. You think to yourself, well, better carry, a plug so that, I can charge my devices if they're kind enough to allow me. A couple of people actually were. It was very nice of them. But the thing is, see, you feel scared. It's not so much that you're worried about something that's going to happen to you. It's that you have no idea what's going on in the wider world. I mean, you feel really isolated. At least that's my subjective perception. And I have to say, cutting the lights truly is dispiriting. I keep going back to that word because that's the truth of it. Everybody I saw just looked a little bit down. And when the lights came back on, like I said, around noon, there were more cars. It was more like, more life all of a sudden, right? And I went to a supermarket to get some food, and the people just seemed better. I mean, a lot better. They seemed like they were just rolling with it, because I actually went to a supermarket twice. Once in the morning, when they had, everything was dark in the supermarket except a few lights here and there from obviously a generator that they have in the back, and, one or two cash registers. And there was like a really long line. I was thinking, no, I'm not going to make this really long line because I have other things to do. And so I thought, later when I go back, then I'll stop by the supermarket, which is what I did. And there, of course, the lights were all shining bright and everybody was just more cheerful. When you lose electricity, it just sucks the will out of people. And like I said, it's my subjective perception insofar as I am concerned, but it was what I noticed in other people. The morning crowd, they looked dejected. They looked scared, quite frankly. And why wouldn't they be? Whereas in the afternoon, everybody felt, okay, well, things are better, And so I just have to say that I think the notion of knocking out the power grid that the Russians are doing, obviously they're doing it because they want to prevent the rail system from working, from moving Zelensky regime forces from end to end of the country. Yeah, that's certainly a military objective, but it has a huge psychological impact on the civilian population. And I think that if they continue to do this, there is going to be more and more refugees flooding out of the country. Even if the local authorities are able to turn back the lights after every one of these attacks, they'll be able to do it. Now, this is the fourth, I think, power outage I've experienced. The other one, the longest one before, was actually the first one, which lasted 8 hours. And then subsequent to that, I think the second one lasted 5 hours or something like that. I don't recall. And after that, it was like 2 hours. It was no big deal. But this one, 22 hours, it took a lot out of people. I mean, people left, okay? And so, yeah, I think that the refugee issue is going to become something that the West is going to have to deal with. Because if the Russians continue knocking out the electrical system, continue demoralizing the civilian population with the loss of electricity, then those civilians are going to flee. And so, I mean, if it were possible to do some sort of graph of it, I think that every time they hit the electrics, a few more people start to leave. And where are they going to go? Because, of course, they can't go to Russia at this point because, the fighting. And so they have to go west. They're going to go either to Belarus, I suppose, a few can go. And perhaps, I have no idea, to tell you the truth at this point, maybe there's some entryway into Russia itself. But for the most part, they're going to go to Poland, they're going to go to Hungary and Romania, and they're going to just flood the West again, a second big wave. That's my guess at this point. Mm-hmm. Now, the good thing is that, with the loss of electricity, I didn't have to worry about anything in my refrigerator. Yay. Because this morning, it was damn cold. It was damn cold because, like I said, the heating system does not work with electricity.